Auburn recruiting gets a huge win, and it's yet another sign that this staff is willing to do what it takes.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We are dapping it up on this Wednesday. Montgomery radio legend Darrell Dapprich hanging out with us. The Tigers earlier this week landed the commitment from a very impressive linebacker, Tyler Lockhart from the state of Mississippi. And there's two things that I love about this outside of just Tyler Lockhart being an exceptional player, Darrell. But one, this seemingly came out of nowhere. And two, everywhere you look, this guy was a Mississippi State lock. But that's the beauty about this coaching staff. Hugh Freeze doesn't care if you're committed. He doesn't care if you're a heavy lean somewhere. He's going to make you feel loved and pursue you over and over and over again. And ultimately, Lockhart commits to the Auburn Tigers.
So many factors of this, like you mentioned, that when you peel back the onion a little bit, it's just even more impressive, besides the fact of what kind of player he is. And we'll talk about that. I want to make sure that I'm pronouncing this tonight. I think it's Winona, Mississippi is where he's from. I don't know if that's the Judd Singer or if it's whatever it is, but that's where he's from. As you mentioned, he's a kid that 6'4", 195, a lot of good, it has that frame that you could build into. Crystal Ball, Mississippi State. I think his brother is currently on the Mississippi State roster. So when this broke late 2 nights ago, it was very, very interesting to see some of the reactions that the Mississippi State fans had. They were very upset, couldn't believe it. So the fact that you go into the state of Mississippi like you do with Waller and some of these other kids and pluck a kid out that all indications were he was going to Mississippi State. It just kind of came out of nowhere. Very interesting. And then again, look, this is a kid that's the 6th rated player in the state of Mississippi and the 16th best linebacker in the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's significant. And that's somebody that is a high 4-star. But to get him, I think all the elements, get him out of Mississippi, late surprise, he was plucked, came in under Captain Midnight and got him late. And then his brother, right, is on the Mississippi State roster, I think, like I said. And then the fact that he's a really good player. So many positive, cool little sidebars to this.
Yeah, 6'4", 195 is what most places have him listed at. Darrell, that's great size. And when you look at some of his tape, he moves very well for a guy that is his size. Brian Smith wrote about this at auburndaily.com, but he's got some positional flexibility as well, which, I mean, DJ Durkin, I think, is going to have so much fun using this guy over the course of his career at Auburn. But I want to circle back to the ranking that you pointed out. Consensus top 10 player in the state of Mississippi, regardless of where you look. The lowest is Rivals. Rivals has him as the 10th best player in Mississippi, but Rivals is also the highest on him when it comes to linebackers in the entire class. They have him as the 10th best linebacker in the entire country. So it doesn't matter which service you look at. Every one of them has him as a 4-star, and all of them have him as a top 10 player in a pretty talented state, and in a state that's kind of hard to measure when you look at the state of Mississippi. But I love the fact that this came out of nowhere, because Mississippi State folks are crying, and it makes me feel good because I really don't like Mississippi State that much, Darrell.
No, you don't.
I hate them.
I hear you. I'm a little more partial to the school in Starkville than I am the school in Oxford, and I'll just leave it at that. Because Mississippi State's coach doesn't insistently tweet like a 15-year-old girl about Auburn constantly. So that's probably why I'm a little more partial to the boys at Starkville. But I will say this, the whole coming out of nowhere thing, that's, in this day and age, that's almost unheard of. I mean, there was nothing, we didn't get any kind of indication or, something might be coming, or some of the usual suspects that say, hey, look, I'm going to put in a crystal ball or whatever. I like the fact that he probably could get up to 205 and play and still be very, very athletic.
Yeah.
This transitional position thing, I think that they have him listed as an outside linebacker right now. Is that what he's listed as technically?
I'm just seeing linebacker,
Okay.
but that's what I would guess.
Which is surprising because if he could play inside or outside, what a coup that is. And it continues the overall just excellence of a class of linebackers that Auburn's starting to stack. And I hate comparing Auburn to any other school. I hate doing that reflective thing where you compare yourself to others because it's not but when you start looking at schools that are really, really good and play for national championships and are in the college football playoff consistently, look at the linebackers they get drafted off their team into the NFL. Just take a look at Georgia's and Alabama's and some of those, and the constant just rolling them over year in, year out, just reloading with linebackers. I love that, and I think that it's such a crucial position. Auburn's already, I think, done a great job with the defensive backs and putting guys in the league. Yeah. I want to see that with linebackers and defensive linemen, and it's starting to get built that way.
Yeah, it is. It's just going to take time because they're doing it the right way. But according to On3, Auburn has the 9th ranked class in the country, 4th in the SEC, which I think when you look at some of the other guys that could potentially come, you're going to add a quarterback. You're going to add multiple running backs. This is going to shoot up for sure. But the top 4 highest players right now in this class, according to On3, they're all front 7 defenders. Ja'Caleb Falk, Tyler Lockhart, Jordan Crawford, and Malik Autry. Mm-hmm. And you just talk about beefing up that front 7, saying, hey, I dare you to run on us. I dare you to do a 5-step drop and defend these guys from a pass rushing standpoint. I mean, there's just so much that these guys are going to be able to do, assuming they all kind of stay together in a class. There's been some talk about Malik Autry. Florida's going hard for him. But with where Auburn's standing right now, you've got to love this 2025 class for the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned it. There's still some skill position guys that Auburn's in on that's going to even – and then I think it's very interesting. I try not to read too much into 18-year-olds, what they tweet, what they retweet. But Caleb Cunningham retweeted his commitment post on Twitter and put, War Eagle, put some Eagles up on top of it. So, is that a guy? Obviously, Auburn is really going hard after him. It adds to that elite receiver take that Auburn has. So you like seeing stuff like that when people kind of buy in and compliment that. Again, it doesn't mean that he's a silent commit or he's coming to Auburn, but it's better than him not tweeting it. I mean, it is what it is. Doing it is a plus. I'll put it that way.
I'm with you.
I remember too when Alabama and Nick Saban started to really build that dynasty. Look how many kids they got out of the state of Mississippi. They would just pluck them from Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss and Mississippi State at that point, their programs were a lot different than they are now. I would expect Lane Kiffin to keep more at home, but apparently he's not. Auburn going back in his backyard and taking people, pretty cool. And, the great thing, again, I'll go back to this. Nobody's from the Auburn staff is tweeting about it and tagging Lane Kiffin in it. So it's pretty cool. Kind of expected, right? Been there, done that.
That's right. Yeah, so obviously the addition of Tyler Lockhart, huge. And
the name sounds like a linebacker. I'm sorry.
Lockhart with a tackle? Are you kidding me?
I mean, Tyler Lockhart just sounds like he's going to lay the wood to you. I mean, there's just certain names that just fit positions, and Tyler Lockhart. I mean, I could picture Andy Burcham saying it right now in the backfield. That's a good linebacker name, brother. It really is.
I get it. I'm right there with you. So yeah, Tyler Lockhart, huge addition for several reasons, both on and off the field. I got a feeling Dap is about to call me out and let me have it for my take on yesterday's show, much like Charlie 5 did. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. eBay Motors is the best place to buy parts for your car, truck, or SUV. They've got over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time. Or, of course, you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make sure your car is the MVP and you can bring home those huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Thank you so much to eBay Motors for sponsoring today's show. Darrell Dapprich hanging out with us as we dap it up on.
Tell everybody what I've done so that the people listening can't see the visual.
Yeah, you just button your top button, which I assume is a nod to the Charlie 5.
Solidarity with Charlie 5 on a take. There we go.
So yesterday, I came out and talked about Auburn's newest addition, Ronan Chambers. Once again, great name, incredible name.
Road grader, Ronan. I mean, come on now.
Incredible name. You're going to push back a little bit on what I said. I don't think it makes a ton of sense for either party, for Auburn or for Ronan. We don't know everything, obviously, and we don't know what those conversations look like. We don't know exactly what Ronan wants in his decision or whatever. But I think from a playing time standpoint, he's got 1 year less of eligibility. I don't see a clear path to him playing at any spot on the offensive line. And so many people have reached out to me and said all sorts of things. Some of the more level-headed folks would say, yeah, but what if a tackle goes down? And I agree with you. Depth is great. I just think you could have gotten depth that had more years left of eligibility. That's all I'm saying. And also, I think if a tackle does go down, well, one, Tyler Johnson's going to be there. And then two, if two tackles go down, I would think Dylan Wade would be more likely to slot in at tackle before Chambers would. So that's my argument. I'm not down on the guy. I think if he's going to be your 10th best lineman, like that's great situation. What an embarrassment of riches for Auburn on the offensive front. That's great. But I don't think the signing makes a ton of sense. I'm still standing by that.
All right. So we can't talk about how some players like to stay at Auburn and not jump in the portal because of playing time. And then on one hand, begrudge a kid that decides to come to Auburn over Tulane.
I'm not begrudging him.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying if that argument. No, I'm not. You're not at all. I'm just saying that there is that narrative that some kids would rather play and love the campus and love Auburn, and I think it's an upgrade over Tulane. So to say we don't see the benefit from both. Well, he's getting to play in the SEC as opposed to Tulane. That's the first thing. Second thing, sure. You keep talking about tackle. But I've done a lot of research, and a lot of Pink and Cole Pinkston and some national guys said that the guy can play guard, too. At 6'6", 290, he could slide inside and play guard. There is a narrative out there that it could be like a Gunnar Britton situation. I'm not saying he is Gunnar Britton, but a lot of smaller schools put their best offensive lineman at tackle. But he can play guard. His specialty is run blocking. He's a very good run blocker and celebrates that. I've seen more than one person talk about that. So if you have the versatility of a guy that can play guard and tackle, and one or two guys go down, and a guy that's made 18 starts at the collegiate level, I get it that it's only 1 year, but you're trying to increase your win total this year. And to do that is at the line of scrimmage. And here's the argument I'm going to make. This is where it's beautiful. They're even talking about this and maybe being a little bit undervalued or dismissive of what kind of role he can have, because there's a comp that I have. This kid's 5 years ago, if he would have come to Auburn under Gus's class, would have been immediately pegged as maybe perhaps a starter, i.e. Brandon Council, who, oh, by the way, came from Akron and played guard and played tackle and played both and had a lot of starts for Auburn. Well, this kid's not going to be a Brandon Council because he doesn't have to play that much. But I have read on multiple national and local sites that although he's not a plug and play and won't start, he will see action. And if it's a kid that you know can see action and does have that experience and has made 18 collegiate starts and can play guard or tackle, I think that helps you in Auburn. Yes, Zach, Auburn's looking for kids that can help them 2-3 years down the road, but you also need to start getting more wins right now. And I'm not saying he adds to the win total, but he might help you in a game if somebody gets hurt, and his versatility and help you, do what you need to do. He
plays more this year more snaps at tackle or guard, Darrell?
Do I think he plays more tackle or guard? I think he plays more guard.
Okay.
I think I think that's where he may end up because of his size.
Who plays more snaps this year? All right, Ronan Chambers or Jaden Muskrat?
Ooh. They may play different positions though, right? Don't we think
not if you're saying Chambers is playing guard.
Okay, yeah. Chambers.
Okay. Ronan Chambers or Tate Johnson?
Chambers.
Let's see. Ronan Chambers or Seth Wilfred? JUCO.
Chambers.
EJ Harris or Ronan Chambers?
Chambers, because of the experience at the power, at the group of five. But here, I don't know if Auburn goes and gets him and uses a spot. I know you Freeze wants 16 offensive linemen, but you can go get somebody else that's got 3 years of experience that you can mold, shape, that's raw, that can grow. Why do you go get a guy that's only got 1 year if you don't expect him to play more snaps than maybe most think?
Well, to me, I think that's why it makes less sense for Ronan, and we don't know what's motivating him. Maybe he just wants to be at the SEC. Maybe he just wants to have fun. Maybe they are pitching something to him. I don't see the path to that unless they see him as the first guard off the bench. But with Muskrat, and I mean, I would even put Dylan Cinda in that situation. I don't know. And then DeAndre Carter and Favor Edwin. I think those are interesting, but I think for this year, Ronan Chambers is probably ahead of them, especially since they added him. So I'm pulling for Ronan Chambers. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And if he comes in and he ends up playing 150 to 200 snaps, I'll be wrong. I will happily admit I am wrong.
Auburn is taking him as a luxury, not a necessity. And how far has Auburn come from an offensive line standpoint 100%. To say that? 3 years ago, this cat would have been a must-have, need, necessity. We got to have bodies on the offensive line because it was so poor. Now, well, let's take him and add some depth and like his versatility and take him as a luxury. We're not expecting him to plug and play. But again, I am reading where they are expecting him to play some snaps.
Yeah. Let's play a fun game real quick.
Okay.
This is the depth chart for Auburn's to start the 2022 season. So not that long ago.
Woo.
Starting left tackle was Killian Zaire.
Yeah.
It's like he might be better than Killian Zaire.
I think he is. Yeah.
Left guard was Brandon Council, which is why I chose this year. And this was Brandon Council's super senior season. This is his last year.
Right.
Center was Tate Johnson, irrelevant for this conversation. Right guard, we had Keandre Jones and Cam Stutz, which is wild that Cam Stutz, he was a redshirt senior that year. That's kind of crazy to think about. And then right tackle was Troxel,
who couldn't stay healthy, obviously.
Yeah. So, I mean, if this would have happened for this roster, I mean, we're celebrating it.
I'm going to say something right now that you're going to get me drug tested probably to ever come back on this show again. I think with that offensive line that you just said, Auburn's too deep this year is better than that offensive line that you just said.
I mean, I don't think that's crazy.
Auburn's backups this year, including Ronan Chambers, if you plug him in as a backup with Muskrat and, Tyler John, all the backup are, in my opinion, more talented and a better offensive line than what you just mentioned in 2022.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, maybe so that speaks volumes of what you're trying to build along both fronts and why he's a luxury, not a necessity, and why we would be salivating over this kid like we all did with Brandon Council, who came from Akron and was like, woo, he can play guard. Of course, Brandon Council had some nasty in him, too. I mean, he used to really go after people. And
early on in this show's history, we would say this is a Brandon Council podcast. I love Brandon Council, 100%.
But Brandon Council wouldn't start on this offensive line.
No, he wouldn't.
Nope.
No, I don't think he would.
So there you go.
All right, Auburn basketball. They've we can breathe a little. Get comfortable.
Breathe. Okay.
Get comfortable. All right, Auburn basketball. 2 studs visiting this week. We discuss in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go, it's the best thing you could possibly get on your phone. We've already talked about Monopoly Go a ton on the show. I know. But Monopoly Go is so fun. You can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards, and you can unlock all sorts of things, whether it's unlockable in games or different things you can do to kind of taunt your friends that you're playing with, talk smack, whatever it may be. Monopoly Go, it feels new and exciting every day. They constantly have changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include like a bunch of different mini games. There's always new timed events to help you win big, massive multipliers for everything you win in Monopoly Go. It's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download Monopoly Go. It's free in your phone's app store. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Yahoo Finance. I use Yahoo Finance because I want to know where all of my money is. And a lot of the times it's kind of spread out through different accounts. Yahoo Finance, it's free and it compiles everything so you can kind of get a real-time snapshot of all of your investments. So if you want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflation, to pay off debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, Yahoo Finance can help you with all of that. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. I've been using it since they came on this show, and seriously, I check it every day. It's a great tool and a great app. So with a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor. That's yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That is yahoofinance.com. Darrell Dapprich hanging out with us for the final few minutes of today's show. And when you look at what Auburn basketball is doing, I think they've already done a great job with the transfer portal, with getting guys that matter, but also keeping guys on their roster, which is extremely underrated and not celebrated when it comes to portal rankings or anything like that. But we all know how important it was to keep Janai Broome and Dylan Cardwell. Well, now you look at the Samford big man who's scheduled to come later this week, Aker, and then also the transfer guard from UTSA, Jordan Ivy Curry, expected to visit later this week. I believe he's coming Thursday. These last two guys, Darrell, if they come to Auburn, I think this is a top 10 roster in all of college basketball.
We haven't had a chance to talk after the Duke Miles and Godfrey situation because we talked about both on the show. So I want to go ahead and put something to bed real quick and go look back before we look forward. Just because you don't choose to pay a particular NIL price or do whatever you need to do from offering playing time to players doesn't mean you can't. It means you won't. Mm-hmm. So let's understand that Duke Miles was going to be a backup, one that Auburn coveted. But if Oklahoma can offer him a lot more NIL money and a starting role, Auburn, it's not that they couldn't. They chose not to. I mean, because of what they needed to do from other needs.
Right.
And then Godfrey, of course, playing at Georgia where his dad played. So the whole scenario with what Auburn's trying to do to round out this roster, Ivy Curry is coming Thursday. There's rumors that Aker may be on campus today. Okay, his visit could be today. If not, it's later in the week. Ivy Curry is a kid that averaged 17 points a game at Texas San Antonio. But the key to that, Zach, is he did it coming off the bench.
Huge.
He didn't start. So if you're selling a kid on coming to Auburn and saying, you may not get 27 minutes, but I can give you 20-plus minutes. And, oh, by the way, you're coming off the bench behind Pegues. He's comfortable in that role because he just did it at a mid-major. Why would he not want to do it at a school that just won the SEC tournament title, and has had some success? So that's one to look at as well. He also is pretty versatile. Zach, I've heard he could play the 2 and the 3, so he could be a backup at either of those positions and get more minutes too. When you talk about salvaging Broome, Cardwell, going out and get Pegues, let's just call a spade. They had to salvage Chad Baker-Mazar too, because there were rumors that there were other schools tampering, trying to get him, and Auburn had to do what they had to do to retain him. Yeah. So that narrative is tired. It's old. Auburn did what they had to do and will continue. There's enough playing time and NIL money to go out and get 2 roster pieces. Acre is very interesting because I think he could come in. I love Chaney Johnson, but that's a battle at the 4. A kid that averaged 16 points and 7 boards a game at Samford, he could come in and potentially start. I'm not saying he will, but it's a battle. It's a position battle with him and Chaney Johnson. So now you've got 2 deep at every position, and I think that this is it could be potentially a good week for this roster and to round out this roster. I like this Ivy Curry kid.
Yeah, Darrell, let's dream for a moment, if you don't mind. Auburn lands both these guys this week. Best case scenario. They land both of them. The roster's done. Your all your scholarships are handed out. If that happens in your mind, and obviously you're gonna you know more about the Auburn roster than other teams in the SEC and other teams throughout college basketball. But in your mind, as far as just caliber of talent and using a tier system, where would Auburn rank in your mind in the SEC and nationally from a roster and a talent standpoint entering this upcoming season?
I think it would have a top 2, at the very least top 3 roster in the SEC. It'd be considered probably the best roster that Bruce Pearl has put together on paper. And I would not hesitate to put it as a top 10 roster in the country.
I'm with you.
And I'm with you. I mean, because you're too deep at every stinking position, and you're not relying on a guy like Ja'Kai Howard and Tahad Pettiford to have to come in and make a huge impact right away. You can let them kind of ease into their game, but both would probably be in the 2 deep, and that's a special luxury to have. But, yeah, you'd have Cardwell and Broom at the 5. You'd have 2 season 4s. You'd have 2 3s, 2 2s, 2 1. I mean, it would, and I think at that point you could play 10 or 11 guys still, have a lot of depth, but not have to. You could shorten it a little bit if you had to. I mean, if you tell Ivy Curry you're going to come here and play 20 minutes, and you tell Acre you're going to play 20 to 22 minutes, at some point you have to shorten the bench. It's somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, right. Good spot to be in for the Auburn Tigers and Bruce Pearl. So we'll see what happens with that over the next few days. Hopefully we get some news before Darrell comes back on Friday. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410. Really love interacting. Had some interesting ones when I was sick and down for 3 or 4 days. Really used it for entertainment. And then Wednesdays and Fridays, I'm on with you, my man.
Yep. Be sure to like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.